All right, guys, a lot of big fights that happened this year. So many to name and so many to go through. Coach Sess, you do the honors in that big brain you got going on there. You interviewed a lot of guys, a lot of fighters. Who do you have as the fight of the year?
I'm gonna give you two,
All
but
right.
the first one I say is my fight of the year, and that's Jonathan Martin, Paris artist. Two a competitive fight, two talented fighters, and it goes the distance. And you got to see everything that's MMA. You got to see the grappling, the punching, the kicking, everything that's MMA. But I got to tell you, as far as excitement goes, watching Noah Starwitz and taking on David Harrison, I was like, those big boys surprised me. I thought that fight would be a finish early because of the size
Mhm.
and the experience difference, but that fight was really entertaining, very entertaining. But Paris Artist and Jonathan Martin definitely was pound for pound skill wise fight of the year.
Dylan, because you're commentating that one, did you think that fight caught people by surprise before I move on to yours?
Uh, Not me, but yeah, I think a lot of people. I mean, I was talking to some people, and I don't want to I never put coaches that talk to me about fights before, especially when they're not on the teams that are involved. But I was talking to a coach from another team, and he was just saying that he just didn't see how Jonathan could win.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, this guy's letting his tenure in the scene dictate his opinion of this fight. He's seen Paris go from what he was 10 years ago at Fight Lab to what he is now, which is a phenomenal athlete. But I did think that Jonathan was just more modern and had more tools available to him. But the main thing, the main strength that Jonathan brought into the fight was the depth of resources of the training partners and the depth of resources of the coaching. Just they had a very good battle plan. They stuck to the battle plan, and it really seemed like Paris had some good moments and some good exchanges, but he wasn't able to fully activate the Paris artist, the God of War that I've seen against Gabriel Brown and in some of those other past fights. So it was competitive. And going into the fight, certainly my fight of the year in terms of the booking, in terms of the timing, in terms of where both guys were. It was the fight I was looking forward to the most this year. And I wasn't disappointed by it by any means. I was actually pleasantly surprised by other fights, and that's why it's not my fight of the year.
Who do you have as your fight or fight?
It was tough. I have two as well. And I'll give you, and kind of going back to what I was just saying, I really like fights. As a commentator, the most fun fights for me are the fights where throughout the entire thing, I don't know what's happening, or I don't know who's going to win, or I can't see what trajectory the fight is going down because it's such a crazy back and forth. There were two fights for me that stuck out to me like that this year. One, and this is kind of an honorable mention / second place, but either of these guys could have been my fighter of the year as well. And that's Deuce Carter versus Sebastian Quevedo. I thought that fight was phenomenal. And like Seth said about Jonathan Martin and Paris Artist, you got to see everything. It's a short fight. It's one round, but you get to see everything. I said that about Brent and Javon last year. That for such a short fight, it has more than a lot of 3-round fights or 5-round fights. Sebastian almost finishes Deuce with the armbar. Deuce hits the hitchhiker escape, somehow scrambles up to the top and comes with the cross and knocks him out. It's just a very good sequence and a very competitive fight up until the finish. So that was like one of the most exciting fights of the year from start to finish. But recency bias may have played into this one again. But for me, I'm going to go with a fight from the last show as well. But I'm going to say Jacob Paez versus Tyler Kirkpatrick. I just thought it was so exciting. I thought, when people say MMA grappling is boring, it's like you might want to go back and watch that fight because both guys from any position they were in never stopped hunting. They were hunting for ways to finish the fight. They weren't looking for ways to control each other. They weren't looking for ways to hold each other down while they waited for the end of the round. They were looking to finish each other if they were in a position to do so, no matter where they were in the fight. So it's constantly very interesting. There's constantly a lot of little things happening. So it's a treat for people who are like kind of new to the fight game, but also the longer you watch fights, the more you see, and the more you go back and watch a fight, it's like watching a really good movie. You see things you never saw when you were watching it the first time. So definitely a fight with a lot of layers. I can't wait for it to come out on YouTube. I've already watched the pay-per-view link many times of that fight, but there was Noah and David was also extremely, extremely good. Noah is tough and he's also crafty, which is a devastating combo, but I didn't realize how tough he was until that David fight, for sure.
Do you think Tyler, because only I can remember the Blevins kid down in Wilmington and D sort of set up the I don't say the template or the model to beat the Pius brother Jacob there. Do you think Tyler went away from trying to use that, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was the thing. That was the most staggeringly impressive thing about the fight is that both Blevins and D have demonstrated paths that can lead to success against Jacob. And in D's case, the reason that's not my fight of the year is because it just wasn't competitive at all. I have no problem saying that. There was never a moment where Jacob looked like he was going to win. There was, right before it ended, there was a moment where I thought he was coming back right before. But for me, the thing that made Tyler's work, or Mr. Kirkpatrick's work, so impressive in that fight was he dove right into the fire. And I think this is one of my favorite calls I've ever had during commentary. I said he has gone away from the ideas that D. Reddick put out there. He's walked into the burning building and he's walking around and looking for survivors. Yeah. That's like kind of how I viewed him. He dove right into half guard. He dove right into Jacob's game. And for a lot of those exchanges, he was winning. He was winning. So I thought it was a very close fight too. I saw a lot of people talking about robbery. When they're that close, I like I said that night, I had no idea who's going to win. But it was extremely close and extremely competitive. And when they raised his hand, I had no idea who was going to get the hand raised. And for me, that suspense, that the nuance of the fight, everything that kind of went into the narrative of Jacob coming back from this injury, it played a lot into my pick for fight of the year.